What's up? What's up?
What's going on?
Computer Love Podcast, Episode 3.
Back again.
I am Jay Reed, and I am accompanied by my beautiful co-host, Chicquetta Shantae. What you got for him, baby?
First of all, I just want to say welcome back to another episode. And today we have a hot topic. We have a hot, just all kind of good stuff for you.
What we got?
So the topic for today, this episode 3, is deal breaker or disagreement.
Deal breaker or disagreement?
Yes, sir, boss.
Please explain what that means.
I'm ready to get into it, but we're definitely going to get to the announcement and stuff first.
Okay.
But just to cover what you said, just to kind of let them know what that is at what point do you realize, or do you say that this is a deal breaker for me, or is this just a disagreement? Especially sometimes in the beginning, I think that a disagreement can look like a deal breaker, or what you think is a disagreement could really be a deal breaker.
Relationship deal breaker.
Yeah. So I think that is going to be really, really interesting, really good to dive into and to talk about. And so I think that is something that especially couples married or dating during a pandemic, I'm sure for those that were living together too, in the beginning of the pandemic, or they had to work from home together, they were probably like, deal breaker
Right.
or what? So that is definitely going to be interesting to get into.
Can a disagreement turn into a deal breaker?
Right. I think it's definitely something that is worth talking about, and I'm looking forward to talking about it as well.
That's good.
So just some quick announcements. Want to say thank you. As always, have to start with just thanking you for being here, thanking you for tuning in, thanking you for subscribing.
100%.
All of the above. We really, really appreciate each and every one of you. We want to say, if you have not subscribed yet, please go ahead and do so.
Hit that button.
If you're watching, hit the button. If you're listening, there's still a button for you to hit.
There is a button. Hit that button.
So leave us a review. Let us know how you doing, how you feeling, and what you would like to see from us. We're going to keep it moving, going right into the chat room.
Chat room. Oh, what we got in the chat room, babe?
Okay, in the chat room today. So this person wants to know, what is a healthy way to deal with a conflict while you're dating someone or in a relationship? So as I read the question, for this person, they don't like conflict.
This person doesn't like conflict. Okay.
So for them, when a conflict does arise, it's like, I don't really have time. I'm out.
Yeah.
So I think that is a great question. Conflict is something that happens in relationships, on the job, and a lot of times people are more prepared to deal with conflict in their professional setting, but not in personal matters. You can be an executive on the job, you can be a CEO, and you're prepared. You've been trained to how to, handle conflict or how to diffuse. So,
Gotcha.
How do you do it in a relationship?
I see. Because I was thinking something different. Okay. So how do you do it how do you handle conflict in a relationship?
How do you handle conflict in a relationship? Or if you haven't gotten to that relationship stage yet, you're in the dating stage, and a conflict arise.
Yeah.
How do you do it?
I guess, it kind of depends on what the conflict is. Some conflicts are more severe than other conflicts. So, the way you would handle a severe conflict would be different than the way you handle maybe a petty conflict. So I don't know if there's one blanket answer for all of it. She didn't have a scenario or anything like that?
There wasn't a scenario, but I do think what you just said was the first step into dealing with the conflict, is assessing like how serious is the conflict. So just doing an assessment. Sometimes you got to step back.
Keep going in and out.
Sometimes you have to step back. You have to see like what is this conflict? What is it? And how do I want to deal with it? Because you made a good point. Is it something petty or is it something like that is serious to you?
So the best way I can answer that question, just to hit the broadest scope, because like I said, there's some are severe, some are not so severe, but just in general, I think the best way to handle conflicts would be to communicate, because typically a conflict arises because of like the thing that you're arguing about is typically, not typically, but oftentimes not actually what the problem is. So say you have a deep-seated issue about something's been bothering you. Say she hasn't been doing the dishes, right? And it's just been bothering you over the past week. And then you bring up something totally has nothing to do with the dishes, but it's coming out of you because you're upset about the dishes. That's just an example, but it could be a lot deeper than that. So it requires communication to figure out what the actual root problem of it is.
Dope. I really like that answer. And so I saw this on Facebook, and I won't call the couple's name because I don't even know if they know about this show, but I saw it, and when you said something about conflict and like doing the dishes or something, it kind of rung a bell. But this couple they've been married for 10 years now, and they have 4 kids, I think. Okay. And they're like 4 under the age of 4. Like they got like doorsteps, right? And so
she gets no breaks.
Right. So she was making this like post, and she was like, how much she appreciates her husband.
I bet.
And so she was saying like, but in the beginning of them dating, he was very clear on gender roles. Like he felt like, a woman should do this, and then like, a man should do
a woman should be pregnant at all times. That's what he felt.
I think so. For the post, it was more so of like, I think he felt very clear of like what a woman should do in the house and what a man should do like outside the house, kind of thing, gender roles.
Okay.
But after all of these like kids, right? It's a whole lot of, we do this together. Yeah. So it was really good just to kind of like see that appreciation post for her saying like, gosh, I really appreciate my husband. Yeah. And just to say like how much they've grown over the years and how things, it may start one way, but you have to be able to be flexible, adaptable, and adjust to like what is best for the relationship and not what is best for your ego or not what is best for something that was traditional or whatever. Yeah. So that post, like I think they got like 500 plus likes at the time that I saw it, because I think a lot of people could probably like, man.
What did the post say exactly?
So it was basically, she was just saying, gosh, like it was an anniversary post. Yeah. She was like, I love this man. I appreciate you. To think that when we first started dating, you were very clear on gender roles.
He's not clear on gender roles anymore?
No, it's like we are a team. Like,
I mean, but you can still be a team with gender roles.
No, right. So, but her post is, and I'm not going to dissect her post, but her post was to say they have 4 kids. Yep. And it's not just she has, like, she does this, she does this, she does this, or he does that. Yeah. They do it. Yeah. Like, if he's off and the kids are like on her, then he's going to step in and do it. Yeah. He's not going to wait for her to do it just because this is quote unquote a gender role. Right. They're going to do what is best for the family, what is best for them to be like successful for their marriage. And she was just saying like, she just had a picture of him, her, and like the 4 like doorsteps. And it was just like, listen, we make this work. We're doing this together. Yeah. And so, when you were talking about conflict and like just the whole resolution of it, I think that 10 plus years in that was like, we're growing together and we're figuring out what works for us. Yeah. And so I think that would be my answer to this person's question. Even if you're dating that person, you have to find like what works best for you and that person. So being able to communicate even in the dating stage, like communication is important. Because sometimes I think you feel like, oh, we got to be like knee deep in to have like open communication, or like before you feel like, is that too much for us to talk about too soon, and we've only been on 2 dates? But if it's a conflict that arises after 2 dates, then you need to talk about it.
I mean, conflicts are tricky, I think, like, because what you mentioned earlier, deal breaker or disagreement, a lot of them can turn into deal breakers. What's really important, especially in the beginning, but really throughout your relationship, is that you have to be on solid ground. There has to be some sense of security that your partner is going to be there with you regardless, right? And a lot of the dissent or the issues come from the insecurity that this disagreement could lead to be a deal breaker. So there's a lot of insecurity, but because a lot of times, obviously you have to communicate in order to get through the conflict, but you don't necessarily need to communicate at that time. Sometimes you just need to walk away and take a break, because some problems are not going to be resolved at that time.
Right, absolutely.
I mean, people have feelings, if I'm in my feelings and you're in your feelings, and I'm not trying to,
that might not be the best time.
Yeah, I'm not trying to come down to apologize to you or to smooth things over right now, But if you remember, or if you always keep in mind that if this is the person that you want to be with, then regardless of what issue is going on, you have to let that person know. So, for example, babe, I love you. This is not working right now. I'm going to go take a walk, and we'll talk about this later.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But just know that I love you.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And sometimes it's hard to even do that. It's very hard to be the bigger person when you're pissed off.
Yeah, that's true.
It's very hard to be the bigger person when you're pissed off. And you can say, I love you, but, don't talk to me right now. I'm going. I'll be back. I love you.
Where you going? Because you're going for a walk or what? No, that's true.
But you just got to make sure
step away sometimes.
Yeah, you got to make sure that they have, but you have to make sure that they have that security to know that I still love you. I'm still going to be here with you. I don't plan on leaving you, but we got to fix this.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Because this ain't working.
And I think that for me, that last part is really important. Is like, we're going to fix this. Like, we have to fix this, because I think it's it has to be a balance in that, because sometimes what happens is things are like swept under the rug
all the time.
Yeah, and so I think that it's important. Like, I 100% agree that not all the time is like that particular time, the time to talk about it.
Right.
You may need to step away from it. You may need to like wait till your emotions come back down or whatever. But not to say like, it's been a week and we still haven't,
right.
It's
been a week. You giving me the cold shoulder. You not even telling me nothing. You haven't said I love you. You don't hug me no more. Nothing. So I'm like, are we even still in a relationship?
Right.
So that's why it's important to, even if you're not trying to really talk to this woman, you don't even really like her at this point, but deep down that you don't want to lose her, then just, pull yourself together, be the man, say, I love you, but I don't like you right now, and we need to work on some things, but we'll talk later.
I think that's fair. Yeah. I think that's the perfect way to, like, in a nutshell, because I know we've definitely given you all a lot for that chat room question. I think it's a lot of good stuff in here that really needs to be taken away and hopefully applied, because conflict is going to happen, and it's definitely going to happen sometimes sooner than later.
And if you agree or if you disagree, please leave a comment and talk to us. Let's chat in the comment section. Let's see what y'all think about this.
Yeah, because for some people, they may think that a conflict shouldn't happen so soon, and so that for them may be like, oh, that's a red flag, not happening. It's too early for that. So
expectations are the source of all happiness. So if you expect not to have conflicts, then prepare to be very unhappy.
So share with us. Let us know, like you said, if you agree or disagree or what your stance is on that. Just know who you are in things, and know or try to continue getting to know who you are communicating with, who you're dating, and finding a common ground and when is a good time to communicate or how to communicate best with that person. So definitely do that.
Yeah. Faux show. Just wanted to do that real quick. Oh, knocking over the mic. What's going on? You getting excited over here?
That's you. When you hit that, when you hit the 1 2 1 2 with the good sound effect.
You know, I gotta find some good background music to play. Just some good what do they call it? Non-licensed or whatever background music.
Something that would not be flagged on us.
Right.
Absolutely. All right.
So that was the chat room.
That was the chat
Hope that answered your question. I don't prepare for these questions. She writes them down right before the show, and I read it, and then I give you guys my answer in real time. So
yeah, off the dome.
Off the dome. So let us know what you think in the comment section. All right.
All right. So we are going to roll into deal breaker or disagreement.
Okay. All right. I don't know what we're talking about, but
this is going to be good.
Let's get it going.
Yeah. So as I think that the chat room, and that's why I definitely thought that would be an ideal question, because conflict kind of rolls into like a disagreement really much. Like that's pretty much what it is.
I'm gonna take this off.
It's a disagreement.
Excuse me. All right.
Yeah. So a conflict pretty much like is a disagreement. Okay. And sometimes you have to really step back and you have to look and you have to decide, is this a deal breaker or is this a disagreement?
Yes. And I think for that, it's good to have. I was gonna say it's probably good to have like to know what some of your deal breakers are up front.
Gotcha.
But then again, that's also a double-edged sword because things a lot of times, and you know, I might get a lot of hate mail on this one or whatever, a lot of anger, but a lot of times, women will have these lists of deal breakers. Like it needs to be this, gotta be this, and this. So I was gonna say, have your deal breakers up front, but a lot of times those lists don't pan out to be 100% true, right? So the things that you say are deal breakers don't end up to be actually deal breakers. So that can be like the downside of the negative to having your deal breakers up front, instead of taking them as they come. But I don't know. I guess you kind of like gotta.
Yeah. So I think that when you say like a list, I think that
you got a list, but you had a list. Every woman has a list.
I feel like every person that has taken time to really like be by themselves during their single season, you should know things that you absolutely cannot deal with. So I think that for sure you should have. So now I think just in reference to if you write it down or if you mentally have it in your head, I think that all people have things that they want or don't want or they're going to disagree. I mean, like a deal breaker.
What is a deal breaker for you?
Deal breaker for me is cheating. That's a number one. That's a deal breaker.
What's a deal breaker to even date somebody? Or are we just talking about in a relationship deal breakers?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think there's both. I think there's deal breakers in dating, and then there's deal breakers in relationships too. Some of the deal breakers I think up front, like just in dating someone, that may be like a preference for you. Like I think that you can have deal breakers that are like a red flag. But it may not be like a deal breaker, like I'm ending all right now. There are some deal breakers that you need to like slow walk. You need to see more in action, or you need to like, okay, I saw this on the first date. Is this like really one of my deal breakers, or was this like he had an off day or off night or whatever? But, for me, like I said, cheating is one of those things that is just kind of like deal breaker.
So there's never exceptions?
I think the only exceptions sometimes are like again, deal breakers is like you sitting down and you're like, okay, is this a deal breaker, or is this something that I can continue to grow from, or I can deal with a little more? But I do think that there are some deal breakers that are like no exceptions to. Now, what that is for some people, that all depends. I, too, like you, I didn't come on the show today and say, like, I'm bringing out my journal, like, from, like, over the years to say, okay, this was one, this was a deal breaker, or this was, you know, something that I absolutely would not have any exceptions to. But I do think when you get to, like, exceptions, a lot of that you may have flexibility in, but I only think that it is that much of a conversation is if when you're married to that person. So when you're married, I think that is like, that's supposed to be like, it's supposed to be you and that person.
What are you talking about now?
So the deal breaker, he was like, the deal breaker, but you said, are there any exceptions to the deal breaker? So I think that in a marriage, it would look, it looks much different than an exception that you would give in a, if you're dating somebody in a relationship.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you can have deal breakers, and some are more serious than others. I think there's a lot of factors that come into play, like the amount of time you've invested into this person. I guess maybe what your deal breaker is. And are you going to be better off if you leave that person? Yeah,
true.
You know, I mean, because you could leave this person and then you end up right with someone else who's going to break that same deal that you have, if it's just an unreasonable deal, you know? So,
well, yeah, I think that, but that's something that we talked about in the last episode, is about a risk. Yeah. So for some people, you would risk somebody doing it once versus staying with somebody that's doing it repetitively. And
we all have our breaking point for
sure. Yeah. So I think that, you know, you have to be very clear and very intentional about what your deal breakers are. And the person that you're dating, you have to be very clear and intentional about what your desires are for the relationship as well. Like, where are we headed at with this kind of thing?
Here's what I would say to that. I would say, yes, there's only so much that we can deal with. However, if it's a deal breaker, you need to, and you're going to break the deal, you need to break it quick. And there's no sense in letting him, whatever the deal breaker is, letting him, you know, make this
multiple times or something.
Right. Like, if you've accepted it once, you've accepted it twice, and you didn't break it off, and then you wait a year or two, and then break the shit off in the beginning. Like, why are we waiting years for you to break this off? You saw it in the beginning. Now you just wasted all this time when you knew it was there. If you're gonna break it, break it. If it's not a deal breaker, then just deal with it.
Well,
that's in my opinion.
I mean, yeah,
because you've already dealt with it. So why are you waiting years to finally end it over the same thing that he did years prior?
You know what? My response to that would be growth. Sometimes someone would accept something, or like, if, you know, and this is if we can go like really deep into it, because you know, I get all like life coach on it. But
let's go.
Sometimes people, and this is like man and woman, you may like, oh, I want this, or I feel like I deserve this.
You looking real sexy in that yellow, by the way.
Thank you. We kind of matching too.
Got that bodysuit. Right?
Thank you, baby.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
It's okay though. So sometimes people come into something a year, or, you know, in the beginning, and they not know like their worth. They not know what they want. I'm not even.
How old are these people that we're talking about?
Yeah, well, it can go. But that goes to like somebody that's dating at 18. Let's say they met at 18.
I mean, maybe.
And at 25, they have grown, and hopefully both have grown.
Okay.
But sometimes
7 years is quite a long time to figure it out. So
hopefully they've grown together. But let's also be very clear in knowing that in not all relationships do people grow together. Like you have one that
is growing
and one that is stagnant. They stayed there and they're like, well, shoot, that worked for us when we was 18. It should continue to work for us now.
Yeah.
And it can be the man or the woman.
Yeah.
But for that person that has grown and that person is like, if you're trying to grow together and they're like, now I'm good, I'm not going to ever tell that man or that woman, well, if that was good for you then, that wasn't a deal breaker for you then, it shouldn't be a deal breaker for you now. Because the same, like who I am at 25, I'm not going to be at 30.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I think we have to be very, for me, I'm very like, just try to be very clear in that, and to saying like, if that was a deal breaker for you, then if you knew it then, don't wait 3 years or such and such. So just being intentional and clear on that.
Yeah, and I agree. In that scenario that you just gave, I'll give a little bit of grace, being that she's just a teenager or he's just a teenager. However, as you become an adult and as you get experience, it just all falls back into accountability. But at the end of the day, bottom line, whether you're 18 or whatever age you are, try to get it done quick. If it's gonna end and you feel like it's gonna end, wrap that shit up, because you're wasting time. You're wasting time.
I'm a person that I definitely feel for anybody that is single, that's in a relationship. It is essential for you to sit and grow and experience growth, and make sure that you're making sure that you are putting yourself and your relationship in a space for growth.
How do you grow though? Because just saying, take time to yourself to grow, if you don't know what you need to be doing to grow, then you're just sitting there wasting time. So
I would always tell someone that if you don't have a life coach, invest in a life coach. One, that I will tell you that. Two, invest in a life coach. If you are not there yet, a lot of people utilize, YouTube University, or, do things for just how you have.
Or just go get a counselor.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Like, and if you can't, because some people,
like your life coach, but also like a psychologist.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you can't, because, there's such a stigma on that too. Like, I don't need
it's becoming more mainstream nowadays.
Now.
Yeah.
But even though some people still feel as if, like, I don't really want to spend my money on that. Like, my money can go elsewhere, but that's a process. So if you're not in that space as of yet, that you feel like you want to invest in a life coach or a counseling or a therapist, just how you on your job, you have to do professional development, personal development, read certain things.
Yeah, I don't want to hear like, what did you say? If you don't have the money or time?
Some people say they don't want to spend their money on there. Like,
that's not an excuse.
It's not.
Because we're talking about people who are taking time off to work on themselves. Yeah. So if you're taking time off to work on yourself, then damn it, work on yourself.
Yeah.
Spend the money to go get the counselor to fix whatever you need to fix, and get back out there. Because we only have so many years on this planet. Like, what are we doing?
So, that's his reality and his straightforwardness with you. This is me with my clients. If you sit down and you're like, everybody has, like, just because you want growth, that doesn't mean you're ready to spend money on the growth. So continual. Like, some people say, okay, I'll spend a couple sessions.
Fair enough. What other ways can you grow besides spending money then? Because they need to know something.
Right. So that's why I was getting to and saying that reading, like investing, like there's free material online. Like, you can find all types of readings like online. Or if you have an Amazon Prime account, there's like audiobooks on there that you get like literally $14.99 a month, and you have like every month you get a credit. Mm-hmm. So you have all of these books that, like, if you don't want to, if you're not a person that sit down and read, you can listen to this audiobook while you're driving. Or podcasts, like how this is the Computer Love podcast. There are different podcasts that is specifically for personal growth, etc. So there are so many ways that you can begin your self growth, your personal development without having to physically spend the money at that particular point.
I think it's very important, though, that while you're going through this growth phase, that you have an intention on what you're trying to accomplish once you decide to get back out there.
Absolutely,
so if we're talking about you're growing just as a person, that's fine. I mean, you should always be doing that, whether dating or not. But if you're talking about trying to prepare yourself for your future partner, then I think that, I mean, reading is fundamental. Reading is always going to be good, but nothing is going to beat, actually getting out there and dealing with the opposite sex. I'm not saying you need, for women, I'm not saying you need to go out there and just like have sex with everybody. You just go out there, you can date, and just kind of, learn about yourself through these dates. Like, go into it with a different intent to learn about yourself. Are you able to deal with a man, or, is it you or is it them? What is really the problem here? Talk to some of your exes. I know you said you talked to your exes and you asked them, I guess, how it was like to date you. That's a very powerful thing to do. And that is a type of growth that I think is going to help you through into the future. But just like reading books and things like that, I don't know if you even know what to read, or if you read it, would you be able to apply it in real world? So you spent a year or two reading books and just being by yourself, and now you're going out to the dating world like, all right, let's see if this shit works, And then you're like, oh, well, that's not really, I got to readjust and real world application, because what you learn at school and when you actually go out there onto the job, a little bit different.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I'm a piggyback on two things, but one of the things is absolutely, you should definitely, I think, and for me, it's never to tell someone like, don't date, but there are times when you're not dating, like, and it's healthy sometimes to like take a break in between dating, like, or let me say this, dating is very different from you're hopping from relationship to relationship, because now you're just taking on like everything, every person, or you're exchanging powers or whatever it is. Even if you're not like you're not intimate with the person, but it's like energy and things like that. So if you are like, I'm exhausted, I'm tired of like, I've been on some dates, I need some time, it's okay to like literally be by yourself for, if it's a month, if it's 2 months, whatever it is. That's not saying that you're going to be like, I'm single, I don't need a man, I don't need a woman, or whatever the case may be. But it's like in that time, in your single season, because everybody has a single season. It doesn't matter if your single season is 2 months or, 6 months. It's just saying, like, when you have that time, utilize it.
Not everybody has a single season.
Yeah, I mean, well,
some people just go hard
all the way through, right? Facts. But it's like, how is that working for you? I think that goes back to your intent. Like, if you're good with it and there's no, like, you're not really trying to prepare yourself for anything more serious or whatever, then that's fine. But to roll into what you were saying as far as me personally, I have absolutely sat with myself in between like a relationship or dating someone. I believe in that. Everybody is not like me. You may not feel that way. But I absolutely, like, after dating or whatever, I was like, you know what? Like, I need some different perspectives. I'm really big on holding a mirror up. Like, I think that everybody needs to hold a mirror to themselves. Everybody does, like, and that's a hard thing to do.
How do you hold a mirror to yourself?
So first,
what is your mirror? Who is your mirror?
First, I think that you literally need to look in the mirror, like literally look in the mirror, because sometimes you only look in the mirror like, oh, wash my face, brush my teeth, like you're out the door. What
are they looking for when they look in the mirror?
Do I like this person that I see? And I mean, do you like who you see? Do you like the person that you are 365 days of the year?
I thought you were about to say you are 365 pounds.
Oh, no.
Do you like this person that you see? You need to get your ass in the gym.
No.
Okay.
But like, do you like who you see? Because something like people don't like to do that. Like that's a hard thing to do sometimes. And I literally did that. Like, do I like the person that is staring back at me? Because see, you can put on a front for me, but you can't put on a front for you. So I can show up for everybody else, and I can be like, hey y'all, like I can give you what I want you to see. But when I look in the mirror, I know the deep dark stuff. I know the thoughts that may have ran across my mind when I saw somebody, walk through. I know what I really did to somebody in this relationship, but I didn't share it with you really know. So it's like when you look in that mirror literally and look in it, do I like the person that is staring back at me? And if there is something that you don't like, you need to sit with yourself and figure out, like, why did I do that? Or why, like, was that just like a one-time thing? Was that like a mistake? And because we all make mistakes. But if it's a mistake, that's not going to stare back at you like in disgust. But if it's something that you like, a characteristic and something that you do to people or you've done and you've like do it all the time, then something in you to say that you need to sit down with yourself and then you need to figure out like why. So that's a way that you can hold up a mirror to yourself.
Okay. Now people may do that and maybe they don't see anything. What are some other ways?
So that's going. I'm glad that you're walking this. Let's walk this through. Okay. So the next thing is go to the people that know you best. So for me,
just anybody who knows you best. Your mama.
I'm gonna tell you right now.
Because your mama gonna tell you you're beautiful and she loves you and is a great person.
I can tell you right now.
So was your girlfriend.
Every woman or man should know a couple people in their lives that's going to give them what they like need to hear. You got some friends that's going to be like, girl, you did that. Like you do it every time. Or, but you have some people, or every woman or man should have at least one person that they know that is going to give them the good, the bad, the ugly.
And we're talking about relationships here, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're talking about relationships. But what I'm saying
go ahead.
What I'm saying is you have someone that have seen you through relationships.
Yes.
So, and this, I'm talking very specific right now. This is my experience. I sat down with myself, and this was just in January that I did that.
Well, I definitely appreciate you for preparing yourself for me, babe. For getting yourself together and making you the perfect woman that you are for me. I really appreciate that.
He's so silly.
Like when she came into my life, like this is the music I heard. It was like angelic when you walked into my life. So I appreciate you taking the time to get yourself together.
He is so excited about this new. If you have not noticed, however, I want to be very clear because I'm so excited. I'm glad that has happened and you feel that way, and I'm still not perfect. I want to be clear on it. But when you do this, you have to do it not expecting somebody to be on the other side of it when you finish.
What you mean by that?
So I did it, but I wasn't expecting you to be here a month later or 2 months later. You see what I'm saying?
What was your intent?
My intent was for whoever I'm going to be with, that I believe in wholeness, that I want to make sure that I am whole. I want to make sure that there isn't anything that needs to be repaired or that I need to fine tune or whatever, because again, in relationships, in dating, in life, you are going to be bumped, you're going to be bruised, you're going to be shaken, and you need to take time to fine tune, to fix, to repair all of that. So for me, that's what it was. It was like, okay, let me, I do this. I've done this several times, but I want to like make sure I'm clear. So the first thing I did was I looked at myself in the mirror. Did that. The second thing was I had a female friend that has been with me for years. So they've seen me in relationships. They know the good, the bad, the ugly. then I went to a platonic male friend that have been he's been through and seen me through different, relationships.
Ladies, make sure the man, it truly is a platonic friend, because, I'll let you finish before I comment. Go ahead.
Okay. And then third is an ex. So I think for me, like I said, I sat down several times with myself, but I think that this was the first time that I felt like, you know what, I'm going to get an ex in on this, because, it's a difference from a platonic male friend who's like, who's a brother, who's a friend, but they still haven't seen you in the relationship. So it was important for me to say, you know what, there was an ex that, it's...
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
I didn't even mean to do that.
It was completely over. And, but I felt like there was still enough, respect with this person to know that we would never be back together or anything. But I felt enough respect that he would also tell me if there's something about myself, he would feel like, he would do it in a way that was caring, that would say, you know what, I think you are an amazing person. Like, you are whatever. But here are some things that I feel
What if he didn't think you were an amazing person?
That's your experience. So that's what I'm saying. But for some people, you may not have an ex that you can go back to and have that conversation.
Or maybe if you have an ex who is... So, all right, you said that you went back to your ex who still has respect for you and all that.
No, so I'm saying...
What if you have an ex who doesn't have respect for you? Shouldn't that be the one you talk to figure out why he doesn't like you anymore?
But that's
instead of the one who still likes you?
No, that's if you can have a conversation with that person. So that's what I'm saying. Like, when I say respect, I mean enough to have a conversation. Because if it ended in a way that I don't care, you can't tell me.
You're talking about you were great or no.
Oh, no. I'm saying,
if they feel like that, then what kind of feedback are they really giving you?
So what I'm saying, and again, you have to figure out what works for you. Yeah. And anybody that is going to sit with themselves, anybody that is going to hold a mirror to themselves, and anybody that wants to go as far as getting people that know you or have had interaction with you, then you have to decide who you're going to go to. Or who, I think you're making some great points. You have to make sure that if you're going to get somebody, you're not getting a friend that's just going to tell you everything that you want to hear. If you're doing that, you're defeating the purpose. So let's be intentional about why you're doing this process. So you should really want to make sure you're going to get somebody that's going to tell you, girl, I love you, but I just I feel like you do too much X, Y, Z. You give too much too soon. You may not want to hear that, but that's what you do. You need to fall back sometimes. Just whatever. I'm just saying, whatever this person tells you, be ready to hear what they tell you. You have to be able to receive someone's feedback from it. That don't mean you have to take everything that they say, but listen to their feedback. That's their perception. That's what they see. And you can't tell them well, no, I didn't mean it like that. You literally have to sit and see and hear what that person is telling you. So every person is not in that place where you're ready for that. And if you're not, that's fine. However, if you're saying that you're truly ready to hold a mirror up to yourself, and you're truly ready to have people that know you and that will be honest with you, give you their version of how they see you, then you have to take that, sit with it, and see what you want to do with that information next.
Amen. Very good. That's powerful. I don't know. I know that that's a good idea to do, to talk to an ex, to figure out, what was their experience dating you. Most people will not do that.
Yeah.
So that's kudos to you on doing that. You definitely are. You walk the walk. You don't just talk the talk. So I commend you on that one.
Yeah. It can be. It can.
You get a round of applause.
I'm still getting used to this thing, y'all. It's hilarious. But no, it can be hard to look at yourself physically in the mirror. But it all, what do you want? and that's that. It always boils down to that. What are your intent?
I would say that if you don't have, you definitely got to be very careful about who you ask for this.
Yeah.
If it's just I think that it's best to ask somebody of the opposite sex to give you, because I think that is your mirror, because that is who you're trying to attract. So if you want to be with a man, then you should get a man's opinion on you. And if you're a man, you should get a woman's opinion on you. But it's tricky because especially for women, because there's a lot of men who will just tell you what they want to tell you because they just want to have sex with you. So finding somebody who's platonic, like you did, is very important. But I think to get the real honest feedback, I think the opposite sex is your mirror.
So I agree to disagree.
Okay.
And it's simply because when you're holding up the mirror, like I said, it's not just to attract the opposite sex. You know what I'm saying? Like the mirror in who you are, sometimes it's like, if that characteristic is there, it's there. Mm-hmm. So it's something that is seen like, so that's why it's important for me. It was important to get a woman who's been there, who's seen it, a man, platonic, who's, seen it. So when you're holding up the mirror, for me, it wasn't just because I want to be this person for the man. Like, I want to be this person because that's who I need to be for me. Like, that's who I need to be whole when this man, like, approaches or whatever. Or when when we begin building, that these characteristics will not only be beneficial to him, but to our offspring.
And I think the best person to do that for you would be the opposite sex, because that's who you want. So I think, like, it was good, but you did go to the opposite sex. You went to platonic male.
So
you went to
that's
an
what I'm
ex.
saying. It's good, definitely.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. I'm not. So I disagree to say that should. I don't think that should be the only source that you go to.
I'm just speaking from the perspective of dating. So
I agree.
Like we're talking about dating and trying to find that person. So I think that if you want to make yourself better for the person you're looking for, you need to talk to the opposite sex. I mean, a woman can tell you whatever she wants to tell you, but until you talk to a man, then you actually will understand,
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. So, and I think that conversations with men should happen more than it probably is happening with, a lot of women. And so I think that that's honestly a part that a lot of women don't share.
And just for me, I would want the opinion of a woman to give me an honest opinion of me. Like, I wouldn't want to hear it from one of my boys to tell me what's wrong with me. I respect their opinion. Like, if they tell me I'm an asshole or I'm whatever, then I will respect that, and I can use that as a mirror. But in terms of relationships, I think, like talking to an ex or something like that is very powerful.
Yeah. Talking to an ex, talking to a platonic male friend, and women, please talk to the important men in your life. Like, if your father is in your life, some conversations women don't want to have with the men in there, like, because they're like, no, I don't really want to, I don't want to include him in that. But this is what you've seen in a man. Whatever you've seen, like if it was an uncle, if it was a college, professor, whatever, these are men that you should definitely be talking to. So I'm not telling you that the only men that you should be talking to is like an ex. It should be men that have seen you, because even if somebody isn't dating you, they see you. A man can see you.
They see how you move. They watch.
Right. So I would 100%, and they can tell you, especially one that have seen you over the years, because that's why I said I went to a platonic male friend, because he's been my friend platonically for years. So he's seen how I move over the years.
Yeah.
If you go to your father, he's seen how you move for years.
But they also love you too, so.
But if you have a good father, great father, he's not going to tell you just what you want to hear.
That's right.
I think he'll tell you something that probably will have you driving home crying.
And if you don't have that, then you're going to have to find that.
Exactly.
And ladies, if you want to talk to a man who's going to tell it to you true, holla at me. I'm going to tell you the truth. You know I will.
They're not calling you.
Not call me. Like drop a message.
Oh yeah, they can.
I can't help. Oh, you can talk. You can talk to whoever you want to talk to, but can't nobody call me.
Who talks to me?
You're a life coach. You talk to people.
Yeah, that's a business.
Yeah, and this is I'm helping people out.
No. If y'all want to talk to him, holla at him. As he said on the Computer Love podcast, he definitely can give you some feedback.
I'm trying to launch my pro bono life coach business.
Yeah, until it launches.
I'm pro bono.
Until it launches, you will speak to him through this.
Send a question then. If she doesn't want to let you call, send a question. I'll answer it.
They can call in here.
You can actually call in
to the show.
And I'll talk to you live on the show, and we can break it down.
Yes, he can. Just like that.
If you need
I support that, honey.
If you need a male perspective, I got you.
I support you, honey.
All right, what we got, love? This is you. You've been talking. You've been talking. You've been dropping some nuggets too. So good. Let's go. What we got?
All right. So, when does arguing become toxic?
When does arguing become toxic? Arguing becomes toxic when you kind of lost the point of why you're even arguing in the first place, and basically you're just tit for tat trying to hurt each other. When arguments become not even about the issue, but just about being right, just about having one up on the person, or just about, making them feel the pain that you're feeling, that shit becomes toxic. It becomes toxic when you start things because you just like the drama, or you trying to, does he love me? Let me do this to see if he loves me and to see what he's gonna do. That's bullshit.
I ain't with it.
Yeah. So if you want to do a test, then I don't like tests.
I agree.
But yeah, I mean that's when things can get toxic.
And arguing, I believe that it is inevitable. Like, you will have arguments. However,
no, you won't. You'll never have arguments.
You will have disagreements.
No, you won't.
Okay. So
you won't.
Why won't I?
Because I said so.
If y'all can see my face
I was trying to start an argument. Hey, hold on. I got the perfect one for that. Here we go.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm kind of retarded.
I love that.
I'm looking like, what? So in reality, I do, there are going to be times that you're going to disagree and it could formulate into an argument. I do not like arguments. I don't like arguing. And you said something where it was like, I was like, I gotta see if he loved me. Like, she loved me. Like, some people really feel like a lot of if you arguing, that means like, oh yeah, she loved me.
Oh no, it gets deeper than that. It's like, if you beat me, he don't love you unless he beats you. Like, people learn that shit.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm not that person. I do not.
You're not gonna beat me?
No.
You don't really love me then, babe.
You
need to show me how much you love me.
Yeah, I don't. I don't love you that much, because
that's fucked up. You better slap me around, love it.
Yeah, no. Listen, I 100%. I told you that story, dude. I'm like, no. I would be like, all right, you got it. Like, if your voice gets too loud for me, like. But I've been like that, like, from growing up as a child. Like, my parents knew they didn't even have to, like, yell so much. But it's certain things, like, we can communicate without, like, I think for me, like, sometimes you get excited and your voice may, your pitch may go up. But literally, when you're walking through the house and people are, like, yelling, arguing, like, that is toxic. Like, for me, that's toxic. And it can literally be one time, but that is toxic. And it's like, can we sit down?
Yeah.
Like, can we actually talk about it? Like, you're excited. Okay, excitement is cool. Okay, whatever. Where, like, I see you're passionate about it. But when it goes to, like, that other level, because you never know what's next.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, it started yelling, and then their eyes start turning red or something.
I mean, what's going on? This nigga crazy.
Yeah,
what's going on?
Yeah, we ain't doing that.
Yeah.
So yeah, just know that arguments, I do believe, will happen at some point.
Of course.
But
that's pretty much guaranteed.
Yeah. But if it's like a man, every other day we argue, every other night or
that
whatever,
becomes
like
toxic because you can't
it's
resolve
toxic.
it. Yeah.
So that I think that knowing when it becomes toxic, every person needs to again sit down with yourself, revisit if that's something you saw in your childhood, revisit if that's something you saw in previous relationships. Sit down and just really see, like, because my version of toxic for some people is like, oh, girl, that's it. That's all he did was scream. That's all he did was yell.
Right.
So, yeah, just there are healthy ways to communicate. And that goes back to the chat room question from the beginning, like literally like communicating and learning, like how you learn love languages, sit down and learn like communication styles and literally hear a person. Like if you're just arguing, going back and forth, that's toxic. Like we have to be able to sit down and really hear and feel like we're being heard, feel like we're being respected before. Like that's a healthy argument.
You said when you're arguing and going back and forth, that's toxic.
No, when you're just like, no, you did this, no, you did this, no, you did it. Like there's no, like you said, no resolution.
Yeah, I think it becomes toxic when it starts to become abusive, and when it starts to hurt you.
Yeah, and that's verbally too. Like verbally abuse is
course.
also So that I agree.
Yeah,
I agree with
exactly
you 100%.
what I was talking about. It becomes you'll feel it. It'll feel uncomfortable.
Yes.
You'll feel anxious. You feel scared, trying to avoid the next argument. That's toxic.
Very toxic.
Yeah.
So
when it starts to become hurtful and abusive, and it doesn't resolve, like you said, so it can feel like that, and then you can resolve it and you move on, right? Mm-hmm. You can make a mistake, but when you feel like that, and then it keeps compounding, or just happens again the next week, or it just becomes a repetitive cycle. Yeah.
But I wanted just to make a point. I only said verbally abusive because sometimes when people hear abusive, they only think like physical or whatever. But there is emotional in both ways. Like a man can sit there and be feeling like a punching bag as well, like by words, and then vice versa. Like a woman can be sitting there and like
and women can 100% be physically and verbally abusive,
100%,
as men can. So yeah.
So just I wanted to be clear on that because you're absolutely right. It is toxic when it becomes abusive, physically, emotionally, all of the above.
It's causing you continual distress. It's toxic.
It's toxic.
Yeah.
I agree.
Or if you don't like the word toxic, throw in whatever word you like.
You want to throw in. Absolutely. So there's a closing question. Honey bun.
Closing question. I don't have a closing question. I'm going to come up with one, though. Go ahead.
So
closing question, like intro tune or whatever. Yeah.
The closing question is, what feeling do you have the most difficulty expressing in a relationship?
Ooh. What feeling do you have the most difficulty, expressing in a relationship? Well, I would say it would be the feelings that make you the most vulnerable, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Anything that's going to make you vulnerable, to put you out there, are probably for me the most difficult for me to express. So, like saying something, I don't know. I can't think of an example right now, but I do know that saying something that's going to make you vulnerable are typically the things that are the hardest to express. Like, but because I'll express anything, but those things that are deep and personal to you, that can expose you and to put you out there, that if I share this with you and you mishandle this information I'm giving you, it could really hurt my feelings. It could really hurt my ego. Those are probably the things that I would be the most. And I'll think of one while you give me your answer.
I mean, I think that is 100% true. Like the things that you're most vulnerable with. And I think for me, it would probably be the feeling that okay. In a relationship, I would probably say, like if I like financially, I just like needed something or wanted something. I think for me, it's hard for me to like in a relationship like ask a man for something. That for me is just kind of like, yeah, it probably won't.
Babe, you had no problem asking me for something. I'm not gonna say what it was and what it was for.
No, but so I'm just saying like that was my answer. You asked me a question, but I told you about that like early on. That was something that I told you because you asked me, what did I want earlier? Something you asked is like, what do you want? And I was like, I'm not really good at that. Yeah. And so he was like, well, how are you going to get what you want if you don't ask? Yeah. Like that was your question to me. And I was just kind of like, yeah, well, I guess you might be right, but I'm just really not good with that.
So what if I said no and I didn't give it to you?
I'd be like, all right. Like, but for me, that it probably won't happen again because I probably like, now you the one told me to ask you or whatever. And now when I really took a step and did it, you said no, I would have been like, all right. But in my mind, like, he ain't ever got to worry about me asking him, for anything. And I think that made, now I can't, because there are some women that literally come off the bat just like, shoot, whatever. But
yes, there's a lot of women who will do that.
Yeah, but that for me, because I think sometimes I don't know, I feel like that is something that I've heard men in relationships say, like, you can like ask me or whatever, you can, know, whatever.
I don't want to guess what you want. Let me know what you want.
You can, whatever.
Because then later on, it's going to be like, you never do that. Well, you didn't ask me for nothing.
Yeah, so I can see that, but I am like that's something for another episode when we'll get into like different things about that. Yeah. But for like some women, it's like, okay, if I ask a man for this, then it has an attachment to it. Now you feel like entitled to, or, something like that. So for me, if I ever ask a man for something, there has to be a certain level of trust there. There's a certain level of like a point in emotional like connection there that we have covered bases of, growth together. But I'm not just one of those women just going to be like, I want my nails done next week. Can you get me? Like, that is just not me, because I feel like there's a lot of things that I can do for myself. And I never want to feel like I owe you something because you did this or whatever. So that is, for me, something that I would have problems expressing, like the need or the desire or the want for something, because if I don't feel like I know you're doing it because you genuinely want to do it, or there's an expectation that is tied to it, then I'm probably not going to.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I still haven't thought of anything, so I don't know anything that I'd be scared to tell. I'm pretty open. You think? I mean, I kind of speak my mind most of the time. Yeah. You think so? If ever I think of something,
you'll share it on the next. Right. Absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, that was the closing question.
Awesome. I love it. So, we closing this thing out?
We about to close it out. We are hoping that this episode has, just given you something that you needed to hear, that you wanted to hear.
Baby, you was dropping all kind of nuggets, yo.
Thank you.
And I'm starting my pro bono life coaching work, so hit me up. Call in
to the show.
Leave a message.
Call into the show, y'all. Call into the show.
For sure. It was a good time, though.
We had a lot of fun.
Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hit that like, subscribe, all that good stuff. We'll holla at you.
Bye.
Gucci.
Gooch.